Cool. Look, I'll kick off, and we'll see if people sort of join in the next few minutes. So, I guess to introduce myself, so Ian White, I'm the director of our customer advisory and support practice at Enable, and look after that sort of across the ASEAN region and Australia as well. And one of the services that we have available under Case is the Digital App Factory. So we've been working on this for quite some time with a few customers, and really, I guess, testing this out and making sure that it's really something that other customers are going to want, and it hits the mark. And out the other end of that, there's been a considerable amount of development kind of get to this point, but it's very, very exciting to be able to start presenting it to people out in the market. I might as well just continue. So I guess I'm in quite a fortunate position where I am in the organization, where I'm talking to a lot of customers about their ServiceNow platform and what that journey looks like over a long period of time, and what the strategy is behind that. And one thing that I think 99%, if not 100% of our customers keep talking to us about is this problem that is almost a how do you eat an elephant type issue, where there's so many spreadsheets, shared inboxes. Yesterday, talking to somebody that had PDF forms scattered across the organization, and there's really zero transparency of any of those services and how they're being processed when they're lost in those shared inboxes across the enterprise. The other big factor, and I think something that's really front of mind for our customers as they've gone through COVID, is when people start at the organization, if they're new, or even some that have been there for a while that might need to consume services that they haven't previously, they've lost that ability to go up and go, hey, Paul, do you know where I go to get a new building pass? Or do you know where I go to order stationery? I used to walk over and ask Tim, and Tim would order it for me. So there needs to be this kind of inherent knowledge of, well, if I need this, I have to email that. But if I need this, I have to email that. And it's not a very, what I call people-centric enterprise service model. So through talking to some of these organizations, we're seeing a couple of real examples here. So customer in Melbourne, 1,000 SharePoint forms, costing them $500,000, but soon to be 1.2 mil in licensing. And every time they need to change anything, it's costing them 30 grand, right? So they're like, before this licensing doubles, we need to get those 1,000 forms off SharePoint and into ServiceNow over a 12-month period. But that just seems like a really daunting task, to go and talk to each of these functions and run a project to onboard their forms into the platform. It's just not going to be possible. It's going to take too long. So how do we actually do it at scale and increase the speed? So I guess one thing we've experienced over probably the last sort of 5 to 6 years is when you start looking at what do these teams need? If these teams were going to go from a PDF form that gets emailed to a shared inbox, or a SharePoint form, or whatever it might be, fax, we've seen faxes as well. You talk to these teams and it's very difficult to go, hey, what do you want? Because they don't know. They don't know ServiceNow as a platform. They've been using a Lotus Notes inbox for the last 16 years. So they don't necessarily have an understanding of the own work that they do, because it's just immeasurable and not transparent at all. And therefore, some of them don't even know how to categorize their work, let alone what requirements they would need from a platform that they haven't seen. So, we started to learn, I guess, over the years that we're doing the same thing a lot. So each team is going to need a really easy to use workspace. They're going to need to be able to prioritize work, measure SLAs, send notifications, dashboards, reporting, all the same stuff, right? So what we set out to do was, like, there's got to be a better way. So we flipped the whole thing on its head and went, well, if we're developing all the same foundational items to get to what you would call a base solution or an MVP, or sort of, insert your own term, why don't we just automate that, so we're speeding up that development, right? So we've taken what's sort of around 15 to 20 days, and there's a number of items there which I won't go through, but we've automated that development to bring that down to sort of probably about a minute or so, and we'll go through a demo of that shortly to show the power of the automation. The other thing that we've done, though, so that's removed a lot of that time for development. So you're already sort of 3 to 4 weeks ahead, in an instant, if you will. The other part to it is, which I'll cover a little bit more on the next slide, is also how, now that we've saved time with development, how do we spend more time with the people to make sure that they're feeling comfortable moving from a legacy system on to something like ServiceNow, and that experience is a really positive one for them, and they receive the right level of training, and we're ensuring adoption. Because obviously an investment of this kind of scale, you want to make sure that people are using that long term. And then also, once they've got that MVP, what does that journey look like? What's the vision behind their maturation? Once they start using it, how do they actually work through that sort of continuous improvement stream? So the App Factory itself is a series of automation to essentially output a scoped application or a custom application on the ServiceNow platform with a very rich agent workspace, pre-built reports and dashboards that are ready to go, a mobile app that's ready to go, and obviously through that, the dashboarding and reporting, immediate transparency over that work, and also a pre-built form to publish to the service catalog, but a starting point that you can use to start to replicate out to onboard more services for that function, which I'll talk a little bit more about as we progress into the demo side of things. So for us, it's sort of a three-step process where we're using, I guess, very prescriptive IP and methodology and artifacts to move through some of that upfront understanding, qualification, and requirements, while putting up some guardrails to try to make it not get carried away and go down the path of boiling the ocean. And we're sort of targeting an 80 to 90% MVP, which we then tailor with specific requirements for that team. That they'll need extra fields and a couple of extra forms and an extra report here or there. And then once that's tailored, we're spending that time with the team, making sure that they're comfortable it's going to meet their needs, and providing that training and getting it launched. So even with an increased focus on handholding, because it's a very prescriptive approach, this process is typically about sort of 5 days to 2 weeks to get the team onboarded, from initial conversations to actually having them live. And when we have a look at the automation, you'll see what's outputted is actually something, our goal was it should output something that you can use straight away, and then that's meeting your MVP needs. But you can obviously then, like on this slide, you can start to go through that journey of maturing it. And we've seen organizations start to learn more about their business, and they're able to add metrics in and measure more things. And what's really cool is we've seen customers onboard a number of inboxes that form up a process. The example I'll refer to in a moment is order to cash, and you can start to understand how those link together, and that can sort of start to form a supply chain as well. Some of the examples of the outputs, but we'll sort of go through that in a live demo. So I just touched on a moment ago, order to cash. So we worked with an organization which had, it was actually, I couldn't be bothered doing this many in the diagram, to be honest, but 32 shared inboxes across their order to cash. All the people were then working in a spreadsheet, which was their central account list, which literally a spreadsheet was governing whether they'd invoiced customers, whether customers had paid, you know, and a sales quote coming from a SharePoint form, as well as some sort of supporting functions like disputes and collections and whatnot. So once we onboarded all this, it actually got this organization quite quickly to a point where they could understand exactly where the bottlenecks were in that O2C process. So where they thought it was previously was actually probably the best piece in that supply chain, and it allowed them to understand what was actually causing delays in getting cash through the door. The two things that, and I love a good metric, but the two things I guess that stood out to me was that they had some people spending 3 weeks of every month cobbling together executive reports. So actually scouring those inboxes and counting records and getting information from spreadsheets and stuff to put a report together. And that's been pretty common. You know, we're talking to organizations that actually have teams of people putting reports together, which just astounds me when I know that we can make that a click of a button or get that on a live dashboard. The other one that's really cool is well, actually probably two, the 80% reduction of lost payments. So they had a big issue of customers just basically not asking customers for money due to somebody opening an email and then forgetting to go back to it, but it showing as read, so no one else picked it up. And then a 6-week reduction in their O2C. So from an order coming in to cash through the door was reduced by, you know, effectively a month and a half, which really helped with cash flow. A bit of feedback and whatnot as well. What I will just cover off quickly is, you know, your typical kind of 80%, 20% rule. So what we're going to go through is, it's very much focused on things that fit within a case management kind of structure and something that is relatively transactional. So the qualification is really important to make sure it's the right approach, and not everything is the right approach for this. So an example, you know, the other day I was talking with a customer about, oh yeah, cool, we want to do like a general ledger load application, you know, would that be good for this? But, you know, through some high level discussion, they actually want to get to the point where, you know, the emailing of the spreadsheet is removed and people are entering information in the portal that goes straight into SAP once approvals are done. So there's some complexities there, and there's some thought around the architecture and design side of things. So that's something that warrants that upfront design and would be your, you know, call it 20%, that might be better run, you know, as a project, or a little bit more upfront design and requirements versus, you know, these guys are in an inbox and they need a case management solution, you know, boom, let's get them onto the platform really quickly. So I'm going to do a demo. I like to make this quite interactive. So I've actually got, I don't know if everybody's used Menti before, but if you go to menti.com, there's a code. People can put some ideas of some of the services that they see floating around in shared inboxes. That's just going to produce a word cloud, and I'm keen to see what examples that we get, and we can pick one and we can build it. Whoops. Just get out of presentation mode. Now I'll leave that code just there in case people need it. So what I kind of wanted to move on to, and just while people are putting that in, is just talk to, I guess, you know, our vision. Sorry, somebody's just pinged on the chat. Cool. Yeah, could you maybe put that code in the chat, Nicole? That would be helpful.
Onto it.
Beautiful. So our vision is really, you know, we know we can help organizations onboard at scale all these shared inboxes really quickly, right? What we want to avoid is going, okay, well, there's 1,000 inboxes. Let's just onboard 1,000 applications, right? And then each application can have a form. Whereas it should really be focused around, you know, I guess what I call that enterprise service management view. So the example that I've kind of got is, you know, there could be a travel inbox, right? So people email travel@acme.com, and they might request a range of things through that shared inbox, whether it be hire cars or maybe a travel credit card, or, you know, domestic and international travel. So the key is that we help these functions get on board really quickly and onboard those shared inboxes, but we've also got a cognizant focus on what services are consumed, and we can start to actually help those teams put forms up on whatever the organization's shared services or enterprise service management portal is. So, you know, day one, they might have, you know, a form for flights and cars. And then the next month, you know, they might go, oh, we'd love a form for travel cards because we need to capture specific information. So what we're starting to do is build these services that then route into a common place for people that work on those requests that go into that travel function. So we're separating function and department to be more user-centric with our service management approach, so that we're not doing, oh, there's a hire car application, a travel application, and a travel card application, for example. So this is an example of where, and the dots will all connect when we pick an example to onboard shortly, where even though this is still going into the travel area, because this is travel, we can ask some other information. So what we would do is take the form that's been pre-built, and we've just added, okay, we need some travel dates and, you know, justification for travel. So we'll add those in so people can submit that. So all those requests are essentially coming into, sorry, just doing a refresh, coming into a centralized area for that travel team. And just let that kind of load up. And then what we've made sure is that we've come at this with a focus of a really rich agent experience, right? So I'm assuming everybody on the call has probably seen, you know, ServiceNow before. So there is that traditional agent view, but we've made sure that Agent Workspace and the mobile app are a key part of it. So sort of starting from that point, and I'll just move my little screen share over here. Oops, I didn't realize it was going to go to giant size, but that's all right. So what we've tried to do, and we'll get to the dashboards in a moment, is provide those agents day one with dashboards that are showing them the work that's going on in that team, and they can very easily understand the basics that they need to manage those cases. How many high priority things are there in, you know, how many unassigned items are there, you know, what's assigned to me, who's working on what, that traditional kind of stuff. So they can very easily kind of go in and have a look and respond from their mobile if required. And if they need to have a couple on the go, then they've got this benefit of Agent Workspace being able to have multiple ones open, and these two at the end, we can see somebody's obviously made an update against one of those. So what we've done as part of that automation, as well as creating, you know, this mobile app so that's ready there for the team, and the Agent Workspace, is the App Factory's actually already gone out and created some dashboards related to this. And I'm using this one as an example because I've put a little bit of data in there so that it actually shows some numbers. But we've looked at this and gone, what's a really good starting point for a team that's probably worked through an inbox previously. You know, typical stuff. How many unassigned, you know, how many high priority, all that usual stuff, so that they can sit down and know exactly where they need to focus. So I might sit down and go, ooh, like 2 travel requests open up, you know, that are older than 30 days, that somebody's either forgotten to close it, or there could be an issue waiting to happen. So that might be where I focus my morning, is having a look into those, right? We've also created a manager overview, which requires a manager role as well. And all of this can be templatized as well as to what shows on that. But I think what's really powerful and what's resonating with a lot of customers is quite easily, with just a couple of simple steps from onboarding that inbox to adding a couple of extra fields, you can get some really powerful data out of it, right? So this particular travel request application, we've simply added 2 extra fields after the automation, which is cost center, which you could actually get from the person requesting it. We just haven't got that level of kind of data structure on this demo instance. And then the total cost of travel, right? So just by having those 2 fields and ensuring that that's captured as part of that case management, immediately allows us to see, you know, what's the total spend on travel across the relevant cost centers. So we've been talking to a lot of organizations, from anything from travel to stationery and all that kind of stuff, where it's all in that inbox. They've got no idea, right? And with an organization I met yesterday, they've actually had no ability to cross-charge stationery, which is actually a massive issue for them, because that includes anything from printing to pens to books to like all manner of things, and quite a large organization. So it's actually there's a massive budget going into that area with no visibility of actually who is requesting that stuff. I'm just going to check our little Mentimeter cloud, see how we're going. Cool. So a couple of really good examples there. So travel requests. So corporate credit card, right, is kind of front and center there at the moment. So what I'd like to do now is basically go, okay, so this is our scenario. We've got corporate credit card. Somebody needs to email corporate.cards@acme.com, right? So the objective that we want to achieve is essentially retiring that inbox and actually getting that into ServiceNow. So this is where the magic, this is where the excitement comes in. I do welcome oohs and ahs as well, so feel free if you want to jump off mute at any point and provide me with those. If there's any questions as well, do feel free to jump in at any point as well. So what I'm doing here, trying to talk and type at the same time, is just filling out some parameters for the application that we're going to build, right? So just a description. So if anybody needs to go back and work out what this was for. So this is to replace corporate.cards@acme.com. And what we have is the ability to actually provide templates. So there might be 2 or 3 flavors of application that start to arise as you spread across the enterprise, and we can actually template that to go, okay, this is an A type or a B type or a C type application. Again, so that, well, we're kind of seeing these 2 types, and rather than building type A and tailoring it to type B, let's just make a template for type B, so that we're again speeding up that process. And we're just defining where that shared services portal is. So not assuming that the out of the box one's being used. And when we send any kind of notification to any customer, we're going to be guiding them to that right area, and then sure everyone's familiar with an auto close, but how long between, resolved until it's closed off. What I'm doing here is I'm just putting in an email signature, and then we have the ability as well to put a header image in. And the idea here is we can have a common header with a company logo or whatever we want in that header, with a signature as well that's applied consistently and can be updated in one spot for all those notifications. And if we happen to know what our categorization is, we have a template that we can give those functions, those teams, so that we can upload them, or we can always do that afterwards. Right, so we're ready to go. I think I just forgot to mention the email address here. The idea there is it will already build all the logic when we build this to actually ingest those emails straight away. So in about a minute's time, technically we could actually redirect that email address to ServiceNow, and it's ready to go to start creating cases. So I'm going to click initiate. Probably should have done that while I was talking. So at the moment it's going off probably about 30-40 seconds. What we'll have is all the stuff that you saw before for the travel application will be automatically built and ready to go in context of corporate cards. So we're going to have all the roles set up, all the access controls, everything like that. Those rules to process incoming email, all the notifications are built. There'll be a basic portal form, like a starting point that we can use, as well as that agent workspace, all those dashboards, and the mobile application as well. So we've just done about 20 days worth of development in 40 seconds, which is pretty cool. So you see we've now got corporate cards. If we this just takes a moment to load up on the first go, but when we open up this agent workspace, you'll see it'll be familiar to what we saw in the travel app before. Yeah, so similar kind of thing. We can come in here. I'll just do a quick I know it's they're my AP sample categories, so ignore that. Let's just go test. There we go, and save that. Just so when we go to the dashboards, there's at least one thing there. Yeah, so we've got agent workspace there, similar to what you've just seen with travel app. All the reports have been created, and the access sharing against each individual report has been linked to the role that we've just created that's part of this app. So these reports are only visible to people that have the role to use this corporate card application, and all of it has already been configured and laid out on a dashboard. So again, nobody's needing to go, even though it's maybe sort of 3 to 5 minutes per report, nobody's needing to go in, create a report, set up the report sharing, drag it on dashboard, resize it, put it where you want. That's ready to go. Now, these guys might go, hey, if we haven't touched a ticket in a day, it's a seriously big issue for our function. Like, that's cool. So we've got 7 days there. We can really easily just modify that report, replace a 7 with a 1, and we're away. So again, updating it is far quicker than obviously going and creating it from scratch. If we go and look at this, we'll also notice that there's a default set of SLAs that's been put in. So even if customers are unaware of how long work is taking them in inboxes today, they generally have some idea, or if they don't, we've got a starting point where they can at least start to measure it and start to understand how long it's taking them to fulfill things. And back to the example with the report, in that initial workshop, we can present a table and go, right, here's what's created, 2 hours for whatever it is, 1 hour response for P1, 8-hour resolution, whatever it might be. How does that work for you? Is it a good starting point? No, 1 day is too short, we need 2 days. Cool. update it, away we go. So at least nobody's going and needing to set these all up from scratch. They're all set up. They've got the start, the pause, the end conditions, and everything ready to go. The other thing that we've built in is just the ability for these teams to flag a case. It's quite rudimentary, but just a way that they can flag, hey, I've got an idea for an enhancement for this application. And it just means that that team can log ideas, and then somebody can be responsible, whether it's a power user or a team leader or a manager or whoever it might be, to go, okay, let me review what the team's been putting in and go, okay, 10 people have asked for this, makes a lot of sense. That seems pretty good. Let's put that forward as an enhancement and get it done. Johnny's asked for this feature and it just seems a bit silly, so we'll probably knock that one on the head because we don't want that one to be built. I'll pause there and just check in. What are people's thoughts so far? Any oohs, any ahs, any questions?
There's nothing in the chat. If anyone's got any questions, make sure you add them to the chat or just speak up now. Maybe we could pick on someone, Ian, one of our favorites.
One of our favorites. Oh, Sunny's here twice. That's how keen she is. What about Mr. Cheeseman? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it looks good, mate. The quick question about the email, actually. So are you saying, like, just on the Exchange server, you reroute any of those requests?
Yep.
Okay. So that's pretty straightforward then. Yeah.
So with a lot of customers, it's a good question, because a lot of customers we talk about actually, just for a period of time, perhaps run it in parallel. What we have seen is people sometimes forget that there might be other emails that are redirected to that email, for example. So they might send it to, corporate underscore cards at, enable.com, forgetting that, that's right, because when Enable got acquired by Acme, we stopped using that, but some people still accidentally use it and it ends up there. So then we can pick up on that and add that into the rule really easily.
Okay. Yeah, no, cool.
How about the other Jason Zhao? Welcome to the call. I don't think you were there when I kicked off.
Sorry, apologies. Yeah, I'm running. Joined late, so I probably missed the whole lot.
What are your thoughts, Jason?
It's quite interesting, the travel cart thing, because we actually have a request came in just a month ago. Wanted to look at the travel request and how to track it and to put it back the charges back to the relevant ICs. So it's definitely something actually we seems in the requirement side. But I haven't seen. Sorry, I probably missed some of the things how you set up the component. So I really don't know how to comment on easy to set up and quickly to get it done.
Yeah, so sorry, I don't know what point you sort of joined in, but so we went through the travel stuff, and then the corporate cards was basically we got a few, got people on the call to submit some ideas, and then we kind of picked one and went, okay, well, so corporate credit card wasn't there at the start of this call. So I think the powerful thing is, in 38 minutes, we've kind of gone through, pretty in-depth overview of what the app factory is, so what its intent is as an offering, and then we've gone through an existing one that we had there, which was the travel request, and then we've actually built a complete application for managing corporate credit card requests with Agent Workspace and a mobile app ready to go. So I think that's the thing that's pretty cool. So good work, team. We just built an app.
Woohoo! Ooh, ah. Are there any other questions
Yeah.
from anyone else here?
Yeah, sorry, that's impressive, you know, given that time frame to put everything and push out very quickly. That's definitely, you know, the directions we're going in terms of the IT side. I think from the challenging side, we experiencing as a company is where requirements and the business process will have to get really knock them out sometimes. And sometimes the challenges actually relies in the business side rather than the technology.
Yeah, so I don't know if you were there at the start. So the automation's one piece of the app factory, but what we've also done is set up a number of we've set up a methodology where, you know, because we've worked through thousands of these over the years, so rather than actually asking the business what they want, which is I think, you know, the enemy of pace at times with organizations, it's actually going to them with, let's call it an off-the-shelf offering. Or sometimes I use the analogy of a suit, and forgive me, Jason Cheeseman, you're probably not going to like this, but you know, I've walked in, there's a whole bunch of suits on the rack. That one looks good, I think it'll suit me. I'm going to grab it, I'm going to start wearing it, and then over time I'm going to go, okay, it's a little bit short here, it's a little bit long there, it's a little bit tight there, and I'm sort of going, okay, now that I've worn it for a little bit, I know where to tailor it. So then tailoring it then is that kind of continuous improvement and making that suit, you know, the best that it can be for that individual. So by being quite prescriptive in saying, we can get you on really, really quickly if this suits your need. And there's obviously discussion and qualification that needs to occur to make sure that we're not trying to stick a square peg in a round hole. But for a lot of functions within the organization that they need a capability to do case management,
Yeah,
this will suit, I'd argue it would suit 90%, if not a little bit more of people that are in shared inboxes. And so I was talking to a company yesterday, right, and they've got a large amount of people out in the field, some of them employees, some of them third parties. They've got a work order system that they use, but at the moment there's a PDF form that they have to fill out, and it's a maintenance form of sorts. I'm probably not explaining the actual form that correctly, but the point is, these people are out there on a like a tough tablet type thing, and they have to download this PDF and fill it out, then attach it to an email where they then send it to a team that then gets that PDF and enters it in another system, right? So when we showed them this, their thoughts were, oh, okay, so we'll onboard it, but they still need to go to the portal to submit a PDF. Like, it's not really, you know, how is this really helping us? And we're like, no, like, put the PDF in the bin, stand this up, get the PDF, put the fields on the PDF on the form. They go to the form on their tablet, they submit it. You've got all the data there, and then that evolution. So day one, you have that team processing it, and then if they are entering some of that data into another system, then you go, okay, well, let's have a look at an integration. Let's have a look at, you know, a process for them to be able to validate it and click load or approve or whatever, and then that can load that data into a system. So you're getting transparency over, you know, what's being submitted, who's working on what report on any of that data, but also you're driving efficiencies through, you know, things like integration and automation to load that system into some sort of system of record that might be there as well.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's definitely that. I can see that's the turning point. Because as you mentioned, some arguments we had in before is you know, business say, oh, just give us something and we let you know whether it fit us or not. And from IT side, it was, oh, you know, give us requirements, we'll build for it. So that's it's always been challenging sometimes in the past. That's definitely a turning point for sure.
Yeah. Sorry, which organization are you from, Jason?
Say water.
Oh, okay, cool. George twisted your arm to come along, did he?
No, no, I'm quite interested to get into this anyway. So, yeah, and Georgia did call me over on this one, and I missed the whole, her first half of the session. So apologies.
And
No, that's all right.
We've recorded the session too, Jason. So after the fact, you're welcome to watch the entire session again if you like. If you've got any questions, it'd probably explain some of the answers to your questions that you've got.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Most welcome. Are there any other questions from anyone else in the crowd? Maybe Matthew Walker? Oh, it's not even turning himself off mute. No. I'll hand back to you, Ian.
I think that's pretty much it. I think what would be good is I mean, Jason obviously knows George, but happy to share out my contact details as well. And Jason, if you like, I think, to go down this path, you kind of want 3 or more use cases. And yeah, happy. I mean, we've seen hundreds of these, right? So it's very easy for us to validate very quickly as to whether it's a good fit or not. So get in touch with George or myself if you want to continue that conversation.
Oh, okay.
Sure,
Well,
no problem. Thank you.
if there are any other questions, please feel free to either reach out to info@enable or Ian himself. We'll be sending a roundabout email to everybody with the session recording, as well as Ian's contact details. So feel free to reach out to Ian if you'd like another demo specific to your own use case or any further details. Thank you very much for everybody's attendance today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, Nicole. Thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you, Ian. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
All right. See you guys.